Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at an article called The Future of Dynamic Media, guiding us to think and express with our bodies.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful, but it's a fascinating topic. So,
Perfect.
ready, folks? This was going to stretch our brains a bit. We're going to be talking about some pretty heady ideas about technology and learning, all centered around the work of the Communications Design Group.
CDG.
EDG, exactly, and their creation, Dynamicland.
Right, and what's so exciting about this is that it's not just like a new gadget or app,
Right.
It's really about like completely rethinking the relationship between humans and computers, like from the ground up.
Yeah, and to understand that, we have to go back to the folks behind it all.
Okay.
The CDG was founded by, some heavy hitters in the tech world.
Okay.
Alan Kay, who essentially invented, the graphical user interface,
Wow.
and Bret Victor, an interaction designer known for like really challenging the status quo. These aren't your average Silicon Valley types.
No, not at all.
So they founded the CDG with this goal of reimagining how computers can serve humanity in the 21st century.
That's a big goal.
It's a huge goal.
Yeah.
They're looking way beyond just making things faster or more efficient. They're asking those like really fundamental questions about how technology shapes the way we think and learn.
Yeah, and what did they come up with?
Well, imagine a computer that's not about individual apps,
Okay.
but about a shared experience, shared creation. That's Dynamicland in a nutshell. They call it a communal computer, designed for agency, not apps.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's really catchy, right?
Mm.
And Dynamicland is designed to create what they call a humane dynamic medium. So it's all about moving beyond the screen, engaging with knowledge in a way that's physical, collaborative, and honestly, a little mind-bending. I have to admit, when I first read about Dynamicland, I was like, is this science fiction? This is wild.
Yeah.
But then, when you dig into their research blueprint, it becomes clear how much thought they've put into this connection between technology, learning, and even human evolution.
Yeah, and one of the core concepts that really stood out to me was their focus on embodied cognition.
Embodied cognition.
Yeah, so it's this idea that our bodies are not just vessels for our brains, right? But are actually deeply integrated into how we think and learn. So, for example, in Dynamicland, you might use physical blocks to represent different elements of a system.
Interesting.
And then you can see how those elements interact in real time by moving the blocks around. So it's not just about seeing it on a screen, it's about feeling it, manipulating it, experiencing it with your whole body.
So it's like the opposite of sitting passively in front of a computer. Dynamicland wants you to move, experiment, collaborate with others in a physical space.
Exactly. And this ties into their goal of empowering people to become makers and collaborators, not just consumers of information. So in Dynamicland, you're not just absorbing content, you're creating it, you're building it, you're contributing to this shared knowledge ecosystem.
It's really interesting. The author of the article even talked about their own like initial apprehension about this technology, that feeling of, whoa, this is amazing, but also kind of scary. Like, where is this all taking?
Right. I mean, that's a natural reaction, I think. Anytime we encounter a truly transformative technology, it forces us to confront some, well, uncomfortable questions, right, about our relationship with technology and its impact on humanity. What's interesting is how the CDG addresses this tension. They connect their work to this idea of iki.
Iki.
Iki, yeah. It's a Japanese aesthetic ideal that emphasizes vitality, style, and living fully in the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. And this connection to Iki is key to understanding their philosophy. So instead of shying away from the potential challenges of technology, they kind of embrace them with this sense of boldness and creativity. They see technology as a tool for enhancing human potential, not diminishing it.
And this idea of like embracing challenges with style and a sense of adventure, it's like woven into everything they do, from their research to the design of Dynamicland itself.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Their whole approach is infused with this spirit of Iki. They're not just building a technology, they're cultivating this culture of experimentation, playfulness, a willingness to embrace the unknown.
So we've talked about the CDG, Dynamicland, this fascinating concept of Iki. But let's get a little more specific. What exactly does their research blueprint entail? What are the nuts and bolts of this new approach to technology?
So one of the key aspects of their blueprint is this emphasis on creating tools that encourage a deeper understanding of complex systems.
So it's not just about like memorizing facts, it's about understanding how things work, how different parts connect and interact with each other.
Precisely. And they achieve this through tools that promote experimentation, collaboration, and what they call constructive interaction. They want to make the learning process itself more tangible and interactive, more like a dynamic conversation than a passive lecture.
So instead of just like reading about a concept in a textbook, you might actually build a model of it in Dynamicland.
Exactly.
Play with it, see how it interacts with other concepts. Like you're taking something abstract and making it concrete, something you can literally grasp and manipulate.
And that's where the dynamic part really comes in. These tools aren't static. They respond to your input, they change, they evolve. It's about creating a learning environment that's as dynamic and fluid as the world itself.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about what all this could mean for the future of education. What does a classroom powered by Dynamicland actually look like? I mean, are we talking about tossing out the textbooks and turning schools into giant virtual reality playgrounds?
Well, not exactly playgrounds, but definitely a far cry from the traditional rows of desks and lectures, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a classroom where students aren't just passively absorbing information, but actively engaged in building simulations, designing experiments, exploring complex systems in a truly hands-on collaborative way.
So less about memorizing facts and figures and more about like developing this deep understanding of how things actually work.
Precisely. And this goes way beyond just STEM subjects, you know? Think about history, for example.
Okay.
Instead of just reading about historical events, students could use dynamic media to create these interactive timelines. Explore different perspectives on those events.
Okay.
And even like simulate historical scenarios to understand the forces at play.
So it's like stepping into a virtual time machine and experiencing history firsthand.
Exactly.
You're not just learning about the past, you're actually inhabiting it, interacting with it.
And this kind of immersive experiential learning can be applied to, well, virtually any subject.
Wow.
Like, give me an example.
Okay, so imagine a literature class where students can create their own interpretations of a novel by building virtual worlds and interacting with characters.
That would be amazing.
Or a music class where they can compose and perform music using gestures and movement, manipulating sounds in real time. This sounds incredibly exciting, I have to admit, but a part of me wonders if we're risking losing something important in this shift towards the virtual. Are we in danger of creating a generation of students who are so comfortable manipulating these digital objects that they struggle to interact with, like the physical world?
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's something we need to be mindful of as we integrate these new technologies into education.
Right.
The key, I think, is to strike a balance.
Okay.
To leverage the power of technology while preserving the essential human elements of learning.
Like what?
Like critical thinking, social interaction, and creativity.
So it's not about replacing teachers.
Right.
Or eliminating the need for human connection.
Exactly.
But rather about giving teachers and students new tools to enhance and enrich the learning experience.
Exactly. Think of it as augmenting human intelligence, not replacing it.
Okay, I like that.
Dynamic media can provide personalized feedback and support to help each student learn at their own pace and in a way that resonates with their individual learning style.
And this could be particularly beneficial for students who struggle in traditional classroom settings.
Absolutely.
Providing them with new ways to engage with material and express themselves.
It's about making education more inclusive and accessible for all learners.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget the potential for fostering collaboration and creativity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Imagine students from all over the world working together on projects in a shared virtual space, bringing their unique perspectives and experiences to bear on a challenge.
The possibilities are really endless.
Yeah, they really are. Okay, but let's be realistic here.
Right.
We know that not every school has the resources to create this full-blown Dynamicland experience.
Yeah.
So how do we make this kind of transformative learning accessible to all students, not just those in elite schools with cutting-edge technology?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And it comes down to issues of access and equity. We need to ensure that these tools and technologies are available to all students regardless of their socioeconomic background or geographic location.
Right. Because the last thing we want is to exacerbate the digital divide and create a system where only privileged students have access to these powerful learning tools.
Exactly. This means investing in infrastructure, training teachers, and developing affordable and accessible versions of these technologies that can be implemented in a variety of settings.
It's a big challenge, but it's one we need to address if we want to truly democratize education
Yes,
and empower all students to reach their full potential.
I couldn't agree more. It's about ensuring that every student has the opportunity to experience the joy of discovery, the thrill of creation,
Mhm.
and the empowerment that comes from being an active participant in the learning process.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, this
Yeah.
idea of iki. How does this Japanese concept relate to the future of education and the role of dynamic media?
That's a great question. I think Iki offers a valuable framework for thinking about how we approach these new technologies and integrate them into our lives, both in and out of the classroom.
Okay.
It's a reminder to embrace the challenges and possibilities with boldness, creativity, and a zest for life.
I like that, a zest for life.
To approach learning with a sense of playfulness and curiosity,
Okay.
to be willing to experiment and push boundaries, to never stop exploring and discovering. It's about cultivating this mindset of lifelong learning, of constantly seeking out new knowledge and experiences, and embracing the unknown with a sense of adventure.
It sounds like iki is not just an aesthetic ideal, but a way of life. A way of approaching the world with open eyes and a willingness to embrace the unexpected.
Exactly. And I think that's particularly relevant in today's world where technology is constantly evolving
Yeah.
and the pace of change can feel overwhelming. We need a framework like Iki to help us navigate this complexity and harness the power of technology in a way that serves humanity, not the other way around.
So it's not about fearing technology or trying to resist its influence,
No.
but rather about understanding its potential and using it in a way that aligns with our values and aspirations.
Precisely. Technology is a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or ill.
True.
It's up to us to decide how we wield it, how we shape it, and ultimately how we integrate it into our lives
Right.
in a way that enhances our human experience.
And I think that brings us back to the core mission of the CDG and the vision behind Dynamicland.
All right.
They're not just building a new technology, they're trying to create a new way of interacting with the world,
Yeah.
a way that's more engaging, more collaborative, and more in tune with our human nature.
And they're inviting us to join them on this journey to become co-creators of this future, to shape the evolution of technology and its impact on our lives.
It's a powerful invitation. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the future of dynamic media and the world of the CDG and Dynamicland, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question to ponder. What role do you see dynamic media playing in the future? How might it change the way we think, learn, and interact with the world around us?
It's a question worth reflecting on. And as you explore those possibilities, I encourage you to approach them with that same spirit of Iki, with boldness, creativity, and a zest for life.
A huge thank you to our expert for sharing their insights and for taking us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to further resources about the CDG Dynamicland and the concept of Iki.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
See you in our next deep dive.